Hi, this is a review for NQ Futures for February 4th, 2026. This day here. I will start with an overview from the 10,000 tick chart. You can see that over the past months we have been in this range, and more recently we have made 2 attempts up. We overshoot the range, then we rejected, went back into the range, had these 2 legs back, and then these 2 attempts to make a new high for the uptrend here, which failed. So coming into the day, the previous day we had these 2 legs down, and in the overnight session we continued the upward momentum, which is this break right here, and yeah, it seemed to we had been in this range around this area. So looking at it on the 1000 tick chart, because it's quite volatile these days, we can see that this break here for this blue downtrend was exceeded. The second leg was exceeded. We retested it from above, and then we made a new high with 2 legs to a new high for this uptrend here. Then we had a break and another attempt to make a new high, combined with this overshoot, and going into the market open we could see that this potential downtrend may have formed. We had the initial swing here, then this overnight high area here, and then the failure to make a new high happened around here as well, indicating that there is some resistance at that trend line. So the initial idea was that we might get a break for this entire uptrend, especially considering the overshoot, which meant we were expecting 2 legs back, which happened. And then at the market open we basically pushed through this down measure move, retested it from below with these 2 legs, but eventually we failed to make a new high. So these 2 legs down initially provided some support, but when the market opened it spiked right under it, and then it retested it, initially pushed through it, but after this uptrend played out, then had 2 small attempts to make a new high before failing and pushing back below this down measure move, indicating that the downtrend is taking over, and we most likely will not be getting a new measure move up, which was an option if this here would have acted as a break, find some support, and then eventually manage to push up towards this up measure move. So when we see this down measure move failing to hold, especially after this small uptrend here did play out and then failed to make a new high, then it's time to consider that a larger downtrend may be forming. So this is the initial downtrend from here, actually. So with this push down, we can look for a short, and the first, basically we would have liked a retest of the up measure move, something like this, and push below from this area. Also could have worked if this second leg would have been larger, because right here it's looking like this is just a break and another potential leg higher may be forming. So a good reversal pattern would be this one. This would be the first attempt to make a new high for the blue uptrend. We would get a second attempt and then a strong close below. Right here it's looking like this is the first entry short, some bullish momentum. This could just be a break, and this is where the second attempt to make a new high would start. But in this case the bears were too strong and they just pushed the price lower. into this channel, which eventually had this overshoot, and eventually also overshot the large downtrend that we had anticipated based on this swing highs. So after this overshoot, it's common that price may get a reversal. So when we see this push back above or towards back into the downtrend, it would be good to look for fair second entry short to catch the reversal towards the other side of the downtrend to make the break. So ideally the setup would look something like this. We get a push and a clear hold above, but in this case it all we got was this initial break for this downtrend here. Then we found some resistance, but we managed to push higher. So I think even here, if we would have gotten a clear fair second entry short, I think we could have taken a long. But yeah, the market was quite fast today and the setups were not very clear. So eventually we spiked through this up measure move and we formed this 2 attempts higher. We find resistance at that area, and this is where we start raging, and eventually we get this break for this uptrend here. This is the break, and that indicates that yeah, this overshoot will actually attempt to make a break on the other side of this downtrend. So this is clearly one leg on a bigger picture. Here's a break, and then even for this break we have one attempt lower, second attempt lower, failure. I think this is good to take, but we need to be careful of not pushing the target too far out of this channel, although the local setup is looking quite well. Basically we have this up leg, then a clear break. It's still choppy, but yeah, you can see the 2 legs here, and then we form this fair second entry short with a very strong push above the EMA and closing back into this range. I think it's good for 1-to-1, maybe a limit order to keep the target within this downtrend or not push it very far would have been good here. Not sure if you would have gotten filled, however, regardless, the price pushes, makes the break for the blue downtrend, and then it spikes back into the channel. At this point, after we have made this overshoot and now we have the break, we are expecting this blue downtrend to attempt a new low. So here's a good area to look for a potential fair second entry long, go for a new low for the blue downtrend. Unfortunately, the setup is not very clear. Ideally, we would like to get a break of this channel, up channel, and then 2 legs back and a clear rejection around this trend line here. And then we would enter short for a new low. But in this case, it just spiked through the EMA. It gave this lower high, but it right into the uptrend here. And these 2 lower highs, they are not looking very bearish. You have this bullish body. So yeah, eventually it formed this leg down, and then it had a break, and here it's a good idea to consider something like this to see how it reacts around this area. In this case, this leg here acts as a break for this correction leg in the blue downtrend, and these are the 2 attempts to make a new high. So first attempt to make a new high for this uptrend. This is the second attempt, failing around this potential downtrend line. We have this swing, this swing, this swing. It's clearly holding, so when we push back into the trend line, I think it's a good trade to take for 1-to-1, because we are expecting these two legs down to make a new low. And for a shorter or smaller picture trade, I think even this, we have this leg up, and we could potentially get a second leg up if we combine this leg, and this would be a second larger leg to a new high. But after we see this failed second entry long here, so one leg down, second leg down, failure. I think it's also a good trade to go short, because the context is, yeah, it's working. Basically, we have one leg down, two attempts to make a new high in a very bearish day. So we've been bearish the entire day since market open, and we are finding clear resistance around this downtrend line, going for a new low. All right, so price eventually made a new low. So this downtrend is played out. It also reached this down measure move. It chopped a bit around it. Then it had this push up over the EMA, eventually making a new low for this second leg of the measure move. Then again, it attempted to reverse, but it found resistance around this area one more time, pushing into another leg down. So at that moment, after we see this strong failure, we are considering that we may be getting a larger leg down. So over time, as price develops, the initial legs down that did play out this channel, the blue downtrend, after we get these two attempts to reverse and we start going lower again, we combine these two legs into one leg. Here's the break, and this is the second leg, playing out the same downtrend but with two larger legs to a new low. So yeah, it has been quite a bearish day. But once we see the resistance forming around this potential downtrend, we consider that this blue downtrend had the break played out, but a larger downtrend may be forming instead, which is this one here. We had these two pushes to a new low, found some support at this downtrend line and the measure move, down measure move as well, but initially we failed to hold and made another push lower, two smaller legs to a new low, which resulted into this larger blue downtrend to have an overshoot. At that moment we are expecting, and we are good to look for a reversal pattern, but ideally it would form above this down measure move, so something like this, holding on the other side of this channel to go for a new leg up, potentially breaching and creating a break on the other side of the large blue downtrend. So in this case it had one push up, a break, this the second push up, and here are the two attempts to make a new low for this downtrend, which failed. At that moment we can consider, when we see this failure and push above the down measure move, we may consider that a larger break may be forming for this downtrend, which eventually happened. Yeah, this can look good for a trade, but it wasn't very clear. We did push below the EMA and below the measure move, so ideally, as I mentioned, this would be the ideal reversal pattern. Strong push above this down measure move, we tested from above, which is something that we had here. So this is quite decent looking, because I have one leg up, a break from this leg, down leg. This is the second leg of this measure move, and then a very strong close above. So at that point, what we're having is this push up, overshoot of this push, a clear break here with a clear hold, and then this push above the measure move indicates that we may be forming at least an attempt to make a new high for this correction uptrend here. So this actually happened, but a clear setup forms here. After we make a new high, we once again make two legs back, we retest the down measure move, and then we basically bounce on top of it, and it's forming eventually this larger uptrend, going for a break of the blue downtrend. So this larger uptrend is forming. We finally get a break of this large downtrend over the past 2 days. So after we make this break, we expect the price action to attempt two legs to make a new low. So we have these two here, then two more attempts to make a new high for this uptrend here. So this is the uptrend leading into the break of this large downtrend. Then we have a break, and then we have two attempts to make a new high for this leg here. So considering that we just made a break of this downtrend, we have been bearish the entire day, I think this is a good looking setup, because this right here is a large failed second entry long. These two legs failing to make a new high. So when we push below the EMA, this is making the break for the uptrend, and then we retest this break measure move from above and we hold. So yeah, at that moment we have initially these two measure move in mind to make a break for this uptrend. Here are the two attempts to make a new high, which failed. So when this failure happens, we consider that this becomes one leg, and after this failure to make a new high, we would get a second leg down, which happened here. And you can see that price clearly attempted and created a larger break. So that's the point. These two small legs, they are the break for this uptrend. This initial medium sized legs, they act as a break for this other potential uptrend here. And then this larger break, which eventually happened, these are the two legs back forming a break for this uptrend, sorry. So you can clearly see that price attempts to play out every channel. Let me be more descriptive, that's even possible. But this initial leg here, which I'll mark in blue right now, had this tiny break, two attempts to make a new high, which failed. And that pushed us into this second larger measure move down, which is this one, which actually makes a break of this uptrend, larger one. And after this fails as well here, then we are going into this measure move here, which is forming a break for this trend, right? So right now every single uptrend had a break. So at this point, when we see this close below, I think it's a good trade to take for a reversal to the downside, attempting two legs up to make a new high for this large uptrend. So this is what happened here, and I think it's a good area to take it when we see this bullish pin bar. So eventually price formed these two legs here, and then it touched this up and remove to the tick, and yeah, I think the market was closed there. But the key point is here how price does react in such areas when you have multiple smaller potential trends in play and you get this choppy action. Most of the times the price just takes its time to create larger price structures. So but if you look at it actually makes sense, right? We know overshoots lead to breaks. After breaks we get attempts to make a new extreme, in this case up. So once again, very important, small uptrend has a break, has two attempts to make a new high, fails to make a new high, and at that moment a second larger leg forms, which acts as a break for the intermediate uptrend. So after we get these two larger legs, we once again attempt to make a new high, which create this larger picture, fail second entry long. So when that happens, price is going to push to make a break for this uptrend here. And after we get all the uptrends having a break, all potential uptrends, only then price pushes to actually create a new high. So yeah, something to keep in mind. That's it for today. I'll create a video on the market open context in a few minutes.